Welcome back, minors. I'm Amber Johnston, counselor at Student Wellbeing, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'm coming to you today with a special guest. Annie, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Annie Birt. I'm the Peer Education Program Coordinator with S&T, and I use they, them pronouns.
And it's time for your morning cup of joe. In honor of National Coming Out Day, which is October 11th, I want to talk to you a bit today about what National Coming Out Day is and coming out in general. National Coming Out Day started on October 11th, 1987, when over 500,000 people marched on Washington for lesbian and gay rights and to call on President Ronald Reagan to address the HIV/AIDS epidemic. 1 year later, a group of over 100 members of the LGBTQ+ community returned to Washington, D.C. in order to help found a day to celebrate those who choose to come out. The idea behind the movement was to help the general public see that they already knew members of the LGBTQ+ community and interacted with them daily. This occurred at the height of the AIDS epidemic, and it was felt that the general public, realizing that they already know and respect members of the LGBTQ+ community, would help diffuse some of the prejudice and panic surrounding the AIDS epidemic. The term coming out historically referred to gay men who had their debut at drag balls, like the way that young wealthy women came out to society at debutante balls. Much later, the 1960s, the term coming out of the closet was coined to describe no longer hiding your sexuality and who you are as a person. Every year, Coming Out Day has a theme, and this year will mark the 34th year, and the theme this year is Born to Shine. So, Annie, what do the different terms mean?
Well, there are a whole lot of different ways that people describe themselves, but it's really important to keep sexuality and gender separate. So things like lesbian, gay, bisexual, and pansexual reflect how people are attracted to others. So a lesbian would typically be a woman who identifies as a woman who likes other women. Gay can be used for women, but also for men who like other men. And bisexual and pansexual people have a broader spectrum of people that they are attracted to. Another term, asexual, reflects someone who may not have any kind of sexual attraction. Transgender, genderqueer, non-binary people are people who experience gender different from how they were assigned a sex at birth. So transgender people would typically identify different from what a birth certificate or other document may say about them, and non-binary people and genderqueer people view gender outside of the typical male-female binary. And then queer is kind of an umbrella term to capture everybody, and that's what the Q in LGBTQ stands for.
That's really interesting. I had heard before that the Q stood for questioning. Do some people say that too?
Absolutely. The Q could stand for questioning as well.
Okay. So how does somebody know if they're part of the LGBTQ+ community or if they're just not sure yet?
That's a really hard question. Identity is tricky. There's no one, I've checked a box, I am LGBTQ now. And people shouldn't feel like they have to have a 3-word or less way to identify themselves. It's a lot of inner searching and understanding yourself that determines what kind of identifying words you would like to use.
So it's really about what they're comfortable with as a person. Like if they feel comfortable saying, I am gay or I am transgender, then that's appropriate for them. But if they're not comfortable in saying that yet, then that's okay.
Absolutely.
So let's say somebody wants to come out. How would that work? What does it look like?
Coming out is individual. A lot of younger people tend to come out to their friends first, but there's no, set order or right or wrong way to come out. It's a conversation with the people that you care about, that you want to talk to about your identity.
Do they have to, I know you said they come out to their friends first usually. Does that mean that they don't have to come out all at once? Is it like, I'm out of the closet now, I have to tell everyone?
I mean, you certainly could gather everyone you know and have a giant coming out party if that's the kind of person you are, but it's totally up to you who you want to tell about your identity.
Okay, so it really looks like how you want it to look like.
Absolutely.
So what if somebody's scared that their friends and family will reject them? What do they do if they do?
That is definitely a scary thing to face. There are always going to be safe people. It's identifying those safe people and talking to them first, building up your support network, and deciding who is safe to talk to and who maybe that conversation comes later with. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do that.
Is there any cues that somebody might be somebody that's safe to talk to?
Absolutely. There are ways that you can kind of suss out how someone might react, bring up a celebrity or a person that you know that maybe is LGBTQ plus and see how they refer to that person, and that can kind of help determine whether that person is safe.
Right. So what do people do if their family does reject them?
That is definitely really scary and really hard. There are a ton of resources on campus, online, places that people can go, and a lot of safe spaces that will welcome them with open arms.
I've even heard there's these groups. I know when I've been up at various Pride celebrations that are. I'm trying to remember what they were called, but they're basically groups of moms who have pretty well adopted members of the LGBTQ plus community, and said, if your family's rejected you, we'll be your mom now. Take your vitamins, drink your water. Like, we're here for you. And I think that's really heartwarming that the community has so many people that are active in it and that are willing to take that step and be there for individuals whose family may not be supportive.
Absolutely. We also do have a group of mom huggers on campus, so if anyone ever sees them out, they are definitely safe people.
Really? I hadn't heard that. What do they call themselves?
They're now the parental affection unit because they accept people of all genders, because sometimes you need a dad hug or a non-binary parent hug, and they're usually out a couple different times over the semester in front of the library.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what about religion? Some people are raised in religions that are very much against this, and then they have the feelings that go counter to what they've been taught. How do we cope and work around that?
Absolutely. I mean, much like understanding your own identity, religion is also a very independent journey. You can define what you believe and what you don't, and take that journey on your own. You don't have to believe what you were taught to believe as a child, and you can really define that for yourself.
Right. Are there people around that somebody can talk to if they're struggling in that aspect? Like, I'm having these feelings, but my faith maybe tells me something different, or I'm struggling with understanding what I'm feeling.
Absolutely. There are websites out there that actually rate different religious institutions on like how safe or accepting they might be of somebody with an LGBTQ identity. And you can also ask people in your communities who they would recommend to talk to about those things.
Wonderful. So going back to the support, where is a good place for somebody to find support? Like, maybe they don't know, maybe they're not ready to come out to their friends and be open with the people in their personal life. Is there a place that they can go for just generalized support?
Absolutely. Here on campus, we do have a wonderful counseling department that is happy to help you. We also offer an LGBTQ support group and LGBTQ consultations if you're not ready to be in a group setting. There are a lot of wonderful websites with different resources that can help you look in different directions and explore your identity further. And there are great online communities and chat rooms and all kinds of things where you can talk to other people who have experienced what you are.
Wonderful. So let's say it's not me, let's say it's a friend of mine, and I wanted to find a way to support that friend. How can I best support somebody that's struggling with their sexual identity or their gender identity?
A really great question. One of the keys if somebody comes out to you is to reflect back their language. They choose their identity, and you need to be respectful of how they're choosing that identity. And in general, just being an active ally, standing up for LGBTQ causes and standing behind your friend and making sure that they know that you're there for them and that they're supported.
Fantastic. So what are the different resources that we have on campus?
Absolutely. So there is an LGBTQ support group that meets each semester to talk about all things LGBTQ plus identity. Basically anything is fair game. And if a group setting is a little bit intimidating, there's also consultations where someone would meet one-on-one with me, and we discuss, again, identity, anything LGBTQ plus. We have books on a bookshelf outside of Norwood Hall that cover all kinds of different LGBTQ topics. as well as pamphlets and resources that people can take with them if they're not comfortable being in the public engaging with those things.
Are there any like particular books or shows or anything that you would recommend to somebody that was going through this?
I really enjoy the book He, She, They, Me by Robin Ryle. It's kind of a choose-your-own-adventure book, and it talks about the intricacies of gender identity, pronouns, sexual identity, and the way that our society interacts with that. So you can follow through the path of somebody who lives in a binary society and a non-binary society, and it's just really interesting to see all those factors interact.
That's awesome. So any last words for our listeners? Any words of advice that you would give them?
Sometimes being LGBTQ plus can be scary. There can be things in the news and things in your community that you can encounter that feel overwhelming. But there is always a community of support. There are always people who are going to be there for you, and find those people and make sure that you know that you are loved, you are supported, and you belong.
Absolutely. And again, if anybody is struggling with any of these issues, you're more than welcome to come up to counseling and talk to somebody up here. And we also have Annie over in wellness, and they have all the resources available up here in the office. So thank you, minors, for joining us today, and have a great day. For more information about mental health and wellness, contact Student Wellbeing at 204 Norwood Hall. And you can also give us a call at 573-341-4211.
The song Happy Days is brought to us by music from www.free-stock-music.com.